With another round of coronavirus income support expected, government debt is quickly piling up. But as Alan Kohler explains, the government may have more wiggle room for stimulus than it likes to admit.
The government has just raised a loan of $50 billion by selling 5-year bonds. That's added to the existing debt of $700 billion, which was $150 billion more than it was in March. What to do with the money? They've put it in the bank. Which bank? The Reserve Bank, of course. Now, the government's account at the Reserve Bank had $70 billion in it, so now it's about $120 billion, which is the most money the government has ever had in the bank. So let's put to bed the idea that the government is running out of money. If the Treasurer cries poor when he unveils the next phase of the JobKeeper package this week, don't believe it. But isn't that debt of $750 billion and counting too much? Doesn't the government have to rein in all the borrowing? Well, no, actually, although admittedly this is controversial. For a start, it's a lot less than other governments around the world, both last year and this year. But in any case, it isn't true that government debt has to be repaid. Governments are not like households and businesses because they control the creation of their own money. Now, this is part of something called modern monetary theory, which is currently hammering at the doors of the citadels of economics. Well, actually, it's the Reserve Bank that controls the creation of money, and it's independent. They've already been doing it, in fact, to push interest rates down, but not to fund government spending. Central bankers like Philip Lowe refuse to do that, even though they could, because they want to impose discipline on politicians. Well, they certainly don't want them to think there's some kind of magic pudding or waterfall of money to pay for their crazy ideas and vote buying, and that's absolutely fair enough. Economists say that printing money causes disastrous inflation and debases the currency. But that is a mistake that has sidetracked economics and government policy for decades. Inflation happens when demand exceeds supply. That's it. Now, more money creates demand, of course, but if there's capacity in the economy to supply it, there's no inflation. Since the GFC, central banks have created about $30 trillion of new money with no inflation. If the Treasurer says on Thursday that he has to cut spending, it's really only because the Reserve Bank won't give him any more money. But if he went through the $120 billion that's in the bank now, and he spent the $10 billion overdraft that he's also got, would Governor Philip Lowe start bouncing the government's cheques? Of course not. And anyway, the government could just go and sell some more bonds at 0.5% interest. No problem.